So, good day, everyone. Why do we need to study historical highlights? When we hear the phrase Philippine history, many people immediately think of colonization, heroes, or even revolution. But history is more than memorizing dates. History is power, history is identity, and history is memory. And sometimes history is manipulated. So today, I will present to you what I consider the true highlights of Philippine history, not just major events, but turning points that shaped us who we are as a nation. And as we move from the ancient past to the present, I will also analyze how these historical highlights explain the current situation of the Philippines today. And let us begin not in 1521 but in the year 900 current era or the common era. So let us begin in the first part of the highlights of the Philippine history, the before colonization, a civilization that is already alive. For a long time, colonial historians promoted what is known as the bipartite view of Philippine history. The belief that civilization in the Philippines only began when Spain arrived. But primary sources strongly contradict this idea. The most powerful evidence is that the Laguna copper plate inscription dated 900 Common Era or the current era CE. The primary source is an actual metal document. It records the cancellation of a debt using a formal legal language influenced by Sanskrit and Old Malay. This proves that there was a functioning legal system already. There was already a literacy. There were a diplomatic and trade connections with other Southeast Asian polities. So for references, here is what I found as I searched online about the Laguna copper plate inscription. These images show what the copper plate looks like today and how the original document appears. The Laguna copper plate inscription is considered as one of the earliest written records found in the Philippines dating back to the year 900 CE. It was discovered in Laguna and written in an old script influenced by Sanskrit, Old Malay, and early Tagalog. This document is important because it proves that early Filipinos already had a system of writing, laws, and connections with other Asian cultures even before Spanish colonization. And the second part of the Philippine history is the Spanish colonization. In 1521, Ferdinand Magellan arrived in Cebu. However, permanent colonization began in 1565 under Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. Primary sources such as the Spanish royal decrees, the tribute records, and church baptismal registry shows how Spain reorganized Philippine society. The encomienda system required Filipinos to pay tribute. Polo y servicio required forced labor, and the galleon trade 1565-1815 connected Manila and Acapulco for 250 years. Spain also introduced Roman Catholicism, centralized government, and the Western-style education that is also limited to elites. And also the Claveria Decree of 1849 assigning surnames. But Spain also created a racial and social hierarchy of this following: the Peninsulares, the Insulares, Mestizos, and Indios. This structure concentrated power among elites, a pattern that still influences Philippine politics today. In the end, our deep Catholic faith, fiestas, and family-centered culture reflects the Spanish influence, but so do political dynasties and elite dominance. When we look at modern Philippine elections, we see families controlling provinces, a system rooted in colonial-era power structures. History is not disconnected from present inequality. For references, here is what I found as a search online about the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. Another reference is the Claveria Decree of 1849, issued by the Governor General Narciso Claveria. And for the third part of the highlights of the Philippine history is the propaganda movement, when the pen became a weapon. In the late 19th century, education in Europe awakened Filipino intellectuals. The primary text Noli Me Tangere, written by Jose Rizal, exposed friar abuses and social injustice. And so, newspaper publications like La Solidaridad documented reform demands such as the representation in the Spanish Cortes, secularization of the parishes, and equal rights for Filipinos. These are not just stories. They are primary printed documents that still exist in archives. When Rizal was executed in 1896, official Spanish trial records documented that the charges of rebellion and sedition. His execution ignited a revolution. For references, here are the original documents that I found while searching online. First is the original copy of Noli Me Tangere, written by Jose Rizal in 1887. Some preserved copies and historical records can be found in the institutions like the National Archives of the Philippines. These documents show the original printing style used during the Spanish colonial period. Next is the La Solidaridad, a newspaper published by Filipino reformists in Spain. It was an important part of the propaganda movement where writers like Rizal and other reformists shared their ideas for change. These original documents served as the primary sources that helps us understand the history and struggles of Filipinos during that time. And so today, social media spreads information rapidly, but also misinformation. So the propaganda movement reminds us that media can awaken nationalism, but it must be grounded in truth. The battle of truth continues today in digital form. So for the last part of the highlights of the Philippine history is the martial law and the people power revolution, the democracy that tested us. In 1972, the late former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. proclaimed or declared the martial law through the proclamation number 1081. Primary government records show suspensions of habeas corpus and the media shutdown. Human rights was also documented, records arrest and disappearances. In 1986, People Power Revolution restored its democracy, and the 1987 Constitution became our current framework of government. So today, debates about martial law up until now, some view of it as discipline and its development. Others view it as a repression. That this shows that history remains how politically powerful we are, and how we interpret the past shapes our votes, beliefs, and national direction. For reference, here is an image of a newspaper showing how the declaration of martial law by Ferdinand Marcos was supported. This newspaper captures the historical moment in 1972 when Marcos announced martial law in the Philippines, a period that significantly affected the lives of many, many Filipinos. Now, I want to show you an important historical document, the Malolos Constitution. This constitution was the first fundamental law of the first Philippine Republic, a symbol of our fight for independence. For reference, here is an image of the original document which you can view from this link, the Salcedo Auctions. Take a close look at the details. Every word in those documents represent the vision of our early Filipino leaders for a free and just nation. The real question for our generation is this: will we continue repeating the same cycles of independency, division, and historical misunderstanding, or will we finally build a future that truly reflects the strength of our history? Because history does not move forward by itself. We move it as generation. Thank you and mabuhay. Once again, I am Amr Hassan E. Bashari from the College of Agriculture, currently taking up the Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Business Management.